What is up? I
Yo.
hope that you can see us, you can hear us, that we're up and running. Welcome back to a new format. My computer still eludes me because I'm dumb. You see the beard has gotten long.
We're kind of old.
This sexy bastard's right next to me. That's right. He's
Chilling where?
He's at
Where's
home.
homie at?
He's home. I'm going to catch everybody up on what's going on. Let me explain to you what we're doing because we got tired of being able to film and not being able to do stuff. We missed it so much. We decided let's live stream it from my living room. So here we are.
I got to admit, I didn't even know we were going to be live.
Yeah, we're live. We're just gonna do it because we wing it anyway. What the hell? Let's just do it.
Might as well.
So the format is going to stay the same for those of you not in the know. Hopefully, we can do this once a week. Get the ball rolling again. Get people excited in this again. But let's introduce ourselves. I am Greg Horn, the wizard, the Skip Bayless of music television, your host with the most. Home. Looking after his new child, that's 8 months old, maybe.
Right. He's got a COVID kid.
Yeah, the Metal Maniac, who is now, congratulations to him, he is the head women's tennis coach at College of the Redwoods.
Congrats.
Yeah, so he's going to be doing awesome things. But we are still the three next to me doing all the things that if he wasn't doing them, we wouldn't have a show. It is the Emperor of Esoteric, B.
What's up, dude?
I feel so fucking great.
I feel silly because I'm watching you on the screen instead of looking at you.
Yeah. You can tell I did a couple of these live ones from here before, but they just weren't as much fun by myself. But yeah, you can't look too much at you because you'll lose your mojo. You're like, oh no, my mouth is moving really funny and I look kind of goofy with this big. Yeah. Look. F it.
I don't know where to look for some odd reason.
I know, right?
I do a live streaming all the time on this DJ platform. I spin records at night.
When I had the Facebook, I used to watch that.
But I wear sunglasses so you can't tell that I'm not
looking at the right spot. Because you're a cool dude. So for those of you that remember what we do, we pick a topic, we overthink the topic, we finally just say F it and roll with it. We do top 5, we do honorable mentions, we read the Metal Maniacs list. Today, instead of doing 5 things from the shop, he might do 5. He might have brought 5 things. Did you bring 5 things?
You know, I just brought the stuff we're going to talk about.
And so I'm going to do 5 things from my collection that you should either be watching, reading, or spinning. So we're just going to run it that way. And then we're going to do this until hopefully we can get back in the store and do a... But I got to admit, this is kind of nice. I don't have to stand up for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We just kind of get to kick it on the couch.
And there's nobody outside waiting for me to open.
We can be as long-winded and as rude as possible.
Yeah. We'll do this wherever we feel like doing it, I think.
Man, we'll do this in the damn park. I'm just stoked we get to be back together and back. So it
feels good.
Should we let them in on what? So we had like 7 topics that we just threw out into the ether, and I let the master pick one, and we came up with. What did we come up with? We can't. Let me get it exactly the way we said it. Forgotten albums by bands you love.
Yeah.
But
there's a little bit of interpretation to it. We'll probably each kind of have our own perspective on it. I thought about it in terms of, here's the albums that kind of everyone agrees are great, but what's in there that maybe doesn't get talked about enough that, in my opinion, is a great album, if not one of their greatest.
I kind of went the same way, like what falls between the cracks, or what maybe that you have heard of, but maybe you didn't give a chance to because maybe there was some lineup changes, maybe you just weren't into it, maybe whatever.
Yeah.
But
Or
You
it
know.
might even be an album that a significant amount of people do love and regard, but when you hear people talk about the band, you never hear that one brought up. You know,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that definitely spun
Everyone
around my
points
brain.
to these couple albums as the greatest. And you're like, hold up, this one's great too.
And you is it's a weird term, right? Because, you know, not necessarily, you might not like some of these bands. On my list, I happen to like
There's
at
a lot of
least
bands you like that I
most
don't
of
like.
yeah, at least most of their catalog I enjoy, or a large portion of their catalog I'll enjoy. We'll get into that. Little bit of a somber note to get through first. We haven't been with you in a while. There have been some notable deaths. I just parsed the list down. Brian Howe, who had 3 or 4 records with Bad Company, died in May 2020. Little Richard, May 2020.
Little Richard died.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yep. Steve Priest from The Sweet died last year.
Yeah, I heard about that. I must have heard about Little Richard, but I don't know why that's not.
He was a
registering right now.
friggin' genius.
We wouldn't be where we are
without that dude. At all. I mean, just on the showmanship alone, how much was pilfered from that dude.
Yeah, the showmanship,
he was
but also just the advent of rock and roll.
He was amazing.
Dude was at the beginning of it.
Your boy Peter Green.
Yep.
Martin Birch. You might not recognize the name, but I'll read you some of the bands that he produced. You'll definitely recognize that. Fleetwood Mac, Deep Purple, Rainbow, Whitesnake, Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Maiden, amongst others.
Yep.
Pete Way, UFO, Fast Way. Frankie Banali, who played for Quiet Riot and Wasp.
He was an early favorite drummer of mine.
Painful one for me, the lead singer of Power Trip, Riley Gale.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, that
was a band that was just on the rise.
It was so good.
One of the best contemporary metal bands.
I remember texting you the day this occurred. I had to work a full day, and it was brutal to stay at work and not cry the whole fucking day. Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurt. That hurts. It still hurts. I got a little choked up just saying that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Eddie Van Halen's one of those people that it's hard to imagine the world without Eddie Van Halen being there.
Tony Lewis, lead singer of The Outfield.
Oh yeah.
Leslie West.
That was
the mountain of a man who played for Mountain.
God damn, dude, I've forgotten some of these. Leslie West was an important one to me. I think I wrote a little tribute to him on the Works Facebook page.
Mississippi Queen.
He's somebody that I think is an under discussed, brilliant guitar player.
He could have made our list for underappreciated guitar players for sure.
Yeah.
Alexi Lalo from Children of Bodom.
Okay.
DMX.
Yeah.
Jim Steinman.
I know.
The dude that wrote for
Ghostwriter for Meatloaf.
Meatloaf and Bonnie Tyler, and he wrote a bunch of the stuff on the Streets of Fire soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
he wrote some gems, man.
One of the reasons we're bros.
For sure.
Streets of Fire forever.
And just recently, Shock G from Digital Underground, Oakland's own Digital Underground, the first band of Tupac. Who's in that?
Tupac was featured on a song called "Same Song" on the early album by Digital Underground, and that was the beginning of Tupac's recording career. Shock G was pretty important, in my opinion, because he expanded the idea of hip hop at the time, while very much hearkening to the whole style and attitude of Bootsy Collins and Parliament Funkadelic. And Sly and the Family Stone, all that kind of vibe. He was a musician himself, but also did one of the coolest things in pop performance like that, which was creating 2 separate personas in one person. So early on, until you even kind of realized what was going on, it seemed like there was 2 front people for Digital Underground. A big one, significant to a lot of people that didn't make your list, was MF Doom.
Yeah. Yeah,
that
that's
shocked
right.
a lot of people.
That came out of nowhere.
He knew he was terminal, I think, but didn't let that out to the public. So people weren't actually aware until 2 or 3 months after he died. But
that was like the Chadwick Boseman. Nobody knew he had cancer real bad until he was already gone. You're like, wait, what? How can Black Panther die?
No doubt. Especially in the age of the Marvel Universe just being immense, there would have been a lot more that guy would have been involved with, I'm sure.
Wakanda forever.
Yeah. Shit, man. Yeah, MF Doom was huge. There's probably some other.
Yeah, no, there
I
was.
can't think
there
of.
was a
It
ton.
just
There was
seems
a ton. I just kind of tried to.
It seems like
to
for the last 5 years or
pick
so,
some.
since losing Bowie and Prince and Tom Petty and all those cats, it just sort of feels like we're at a point now where we're just going to see our heroes passing, especially the ones from the era of classic rock, 60s rock heroes. You know, they're all getting up there in age.
You know, eventually.
Well, we don't want to be too negative about it.
We try to celebrate.
Yeah, we're left with all the amazing art and music that they gave us. So, you know,
physical media lives forever.
Indeed.
Speaking of,
especially if you take care of it, you honor it. You can have it for a long time.
Speaking of, as always, we will take our lists. Honorable mentions. I will read mine. He'll get to his. We will read the Metal Maniacs list. Then 5 to 1, 1 to 5. We will bounce from 5 to 1 of our forgotten records by bands you may or may not love, or may or may not have forgotten, or maybe you just never listened to them, or maybe you don't care, or you're still going to have fun watching this.
Yeah.
So, as always, I love to dance on the fringe of whatever the topic is and be a little... And I tried to fit Journey in somehow, and I was trying to figure out what record maybe one of the solo records. So I kind of fudged it. Hope this comes up. It's the Hagar Sean record from 1984, HSAS.
Yeah.
It's the only album they really recorded. It was kind of like one of those things for MTV where they did a live show and then they kind of recorded part of it and they released it as a record. And they didn't get a lot of time to do anything. And then Sean went back to Journey and Hagar went and recorded VOA, his solo record.
Okay.
So there's that. We talked about this guy earlier when, off camera we were talking about some stuff. These are all going to come up backwards, aren't they? And there's glare and it's Poison.
Yeah. It's
Native Tongue from 93, their only record with Richie Kotzen on guitar when the whole friction between CeCe DeVille and Bret Michaels was a little too much. If you haven't given this an opportunity, give it an opportunity. If you don't like what Poison does because they're drunken frat boys or it's just party this, party that, this record with Kotzen, because he can also sing and he also writes and he also plays guitar and does all these things so well that they moved in a little bit more of a dynamic, more bluesy, away from the glam kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They got a little bit more mature in their lyrics.
We're talking their third record?
Maybe their fourth. Maybe their fourth. It was just really good. And you should give it a spin. It's hard when you have 20 or 25 records. There's going to be a couple that maybe don't get a lot of press. Overkill.
Oh yeah.
I Hear Black. One of my very favorite Overkill records.
I have a feeling they have way more records than most people know.
Yeah.
Unless you've been a hardcore Overkill fan for years, you probably don't realize how much they put out there.
That came out in 93, and it came a couple years, maybe 2 years after what a lot of people to that point really considered their masterpiece, Horoscope, very highly regarded. This, they went from that super up-tempo thrash to a little bit more groove-oriented, little bit darker.
Which a lot of bands were doing in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't, it was successful enough, but coming on the heels of that monster, it just kind of loses, it kind of falls between the cracks. You don't hear a lot of people talking about
We have
that
a topic coming up pretty soon, probably. I think Overkill might get discussed in that topic. I have a feeling. But one thing interesting about
metal.
Hell yeah, we're always down to talk about metal. Yeah, we don't need to waste time on Overkill, but there's
that
some
means
interesting-
you see what he just did. He said, "Put a pin in it. We're gonna get back to
yeah,
that."
yeah.
Oh yeah. What have I always said? You can't have a list if you don't put Kiss on it. Trying to avoid the glare. There we go. Animalize. Horrible record cover. Great record.
God, I have to disagree, man. Because I like that record, I love the cover.
I thought you were gonna be like, I hate that record.
No, man, that's got some bangers on it.
It's their only record with Mark St. John before he had to
Yeah.
leave because of his arthritis in his wrists or arms or whatever. It was successful, but it's viewed as a move away from the style they were doing and more into the glam stuff.
Yeah.
Because Paul was pretty much running the show at this point. Gene kind of took off to do some acting and try to do that kind of stuff. And it created
He was still showing up for the videos.
Yeah,
though.
he was still showing up for the videos, but Paul did a lot of, well, I mean, they always used outside writers. And
You gotta give it some credit to the MTV era, because I think that Kiss stuff wouldn't have been as successful without having music videos.
I've had enough. Heaven's on Fire.
Under the
Get
Gun,
All You
dude.
Can Take. Lonely the Hunter. Thrills in the Night, my favorite song on the record. This is a really great record, and a lot of people, you kind of gets missed. You don't really.
So Heaven's on Fire was probably his hit off of
Yeah.
there.
Definitely.
Under the Gun, that's
You Get All You Can
a
Take.
ripper.
I
Yeah,
love this record.
I love it, dude. I'm unapologetic about Kiss. I love Kiss,
I do
and I
too.
love the stuff that people think is even worse than what they don't like about the 70s Kiss.
Yeah.
I love it all.
And if you are a Kiss fan, you probably know by now that Gene has an incredibly huge ego, and even he will admit that he was kind of ghosted for a large part of the 80s, and
You don't have to
he
take,
admits it.
you don't have to take Gene personally.
Yeah,
You don't have to let it get to you.
So that, building on that tension between Gene and Paul, we have another band who's gets a little tense.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Cult with
Yeah,
Ceremony, with the cover where the family of this child sued them because they didn't they didn't get permission to use his image. Ceremony is a great record. Kind of gets lost in the cracks because it came after Electric and then Sonic Temple.
Yeah, so most people talk about Love and Electric by
Yeah.
The Cult. Of course, 99, they came out with another great record. They made probably more great records than bad records, but I have to admit I don't even know that one too well.
Yeah, that one, that's Wild Hearted Sun is on it, which is a brilliant song. Earth Mofo, Heart of Soul, great song. That
This
came
guy,
out in
when he likes a
91.
band, he listens to every single thing they did.
I do try.
Yeah.
Ian Astbury and Billy Duffy were really kind of going at it at this point in the bands, and they couldn't even record together. They would record their parts separated.
Yeah.
Luckily, they buried the hatchet, and we got some
Yeah.
better stuff or some good stuff after that. But this is a great record. But it's hard to follow up. Like eventually, you got to follow up these monster.
Yeah.
Like Electric was
Yeah.
huge. Sonic Temple was.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We talked.
Why can't I think of the name of that one from 99? It's got Take the Power on it.
Is that the one with the, like goat head thing on it? That
No,
white.
it's not that one.
I
not
can't.
that one.
I don't have any after
Anyway,
that
it's got
one.
Take the Power. I remember that song.
We talked about him and the deaths. A lot of people, when they
Yeah.
think Bad Company, they just don't do anything after Paul Rogers, and you're just missing some really great stuff.
So this is Bad Company without Paul Rogers.
This is with Brian Howe on
Yeah,
vocals. Their
yeah.
third record with him, Holy Water, came out in 90. I think a lot of his era stuff is just overlooked because it's not Paul Rogers.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they're like, we don't want to deal with it. So you take that kind of, they went from that kind of 70s, I don't know, not AOR, but like that 70s rock feel.
Yes.
And then they kind of went, 80s more.
A little bit
ballady,
middle of the road
yes.
rock. I mean, it was radio friendly rock, but
well written.
It's hard not to be overshadowed by Paul Rodgers because he really is one of the greatest rock singers of his era. But there were certainly some other great ones that kind of were more like second tier great vocalists.
Yes. Sorry, I had
maybe
my
they
kid
should
was
be.
texting
That's
me.
all good. This is live.
Yeah, just give it a spin.
Yeah.
They wrote some great tracks.
One of us might have to, hit the head at some point.
Yeah, he might. My last honorable mention, again, a band with a ton of records and several iterations of lineups and it comes sandwiched in between two monster albums, and you just kind of forget. We're going Savage Amusement by the Scorpions. Yeah. I love this record.
I honestly don't ever put that record on.
Yeah, you're missing out, man. It is great.
I don't even really know all the song titles.
It was sandwiched in between. This came out in '88. Sandwiched in between Love It for Sting and Crazy World.
I don't really know Crazy World either.
Crazy World had the that song about the wall coming down. You know what I mean? I hate that song. Don't Stop at the Top, Rhythm of Love, Passion Rules the Game, Media Overkill. Man,
it's a Media Overkill.
Believe in Love.
See, I claim to be a huge Scorpions fan, but I don't even really know that record.
It's a great record. You got to get that record on.
But that's a band who put out a lot of records, a lot of great ones. So this is the thing. You pulled out your also rans, your honorable mentions, and I just want to talk about all that.
That's why we do this. It gets us excited about some things that maybe we forgot.
Man, I don't have these in an order, so we'll just start with where I am, I guess. This is a band that I'd be surprised if you didn't know a little about them. Their peak albums were back to back Los Exorcisto and Astro Creep 2000.
Yeah,
White Zombie.
From the mind of
who knows. This isn't exactly their debut, but it's their first full-length record. They had been around for some time before this.
His art was always dope.
Make Them Die Slowly, 1989, I believe. I won't even try to describe it right now. It's weird. It's just a weird kind of metal that only Rob Zombie could make. It's just a little sludgier, a little more raw than what was doing on Astro Creep, Los Exorcisto. I'm sorry, the follow-up to that. So scope that one out.
Yeah. There's something that he sat in the pocket of that groovy kind of like, there was that underlying groove in a lot of his rock, and it just made you be like, all right, I can. I saw them live. My ex and I saw them live. He put on a hell of a show.
I wish I could have seen White Zombie. I saw Rob Zombie live. I didn't.
Yeah, I should say that it wasn't White Zombie.
He did put on a hell of a show.
He puts on a hell of a show. You can say whatever you want about the dude.
I wasn't even a huge fan at the time.
He puts on a show.
I liked him, in a general way. I liked a lot of stuff he had done. But when I saw him live, I probably told you this before, but there was one point in the show, and I was back on the lawn at Shoreline Amphitheater. So I was way far back there, but there was one point in the show where he said, "I'm coming out there to you guys." And he made you think that he might. I mean, I wasn't fully convinced that he would. Didn't seem totally logistically possible, but he made you feel like, I'm going to come out there and
Have you ever been to the Warfield?
Yeah.
So I saw them at the Warfield.
That's a better venue for sure.
We're up in the balcony kind of thing, but it's still close enough where you feel like you can reach out and slap him a high five.
Yeah.
And he stops the show dead, points at two kids in the crowd, like kids, like Uriah's age, like 12, 13, pulls them up on stage, sits them over his wife Sherry Moon is on side
Right,
stage. You
right.
can see her the whole time, just standing there, grooving out, watching. Those two kids sat with her and watched the rest of that show from the
That's
side.
dope.
I was
Yeah.
like, never forgetting that story. Those kids are probably still talking about that.
I bet I'd be pretty confident saying Rob Zombie's probably a real good dude. In real
He
life.
probably is.
He seems like it to
he
me.
seems like it would be fun just to tour his house with all his horror
Yeah.
collections.
Here's a band kind of in this weird nebulous zone of kind of late 80s. I don't really want to call it post-punk, but that term still kind of applies because it was beyond the hardcore punk era. And everybody refers to the album Goat, the album Liar, even Down. But the one that never gets talked about, the one that preceded those, is called Head. And it's just a little bit weirder. It's a little bit kind of slinkier and creepier. And in some ways, I think it may actually be their best record, as much as I like the other ones.
Even heard these guys in decades.
It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
David Yao, Jesus Lizard.
Did he do something after Jesus Lizard?
He, I don't think he had much besides Jesus Lizard, but he did join this other Los Angeles band. It was a two-piece, drummer and guitar, and the drummer sang on some of the cuts. And for some reason, David Yao saw them live, and I think pretty much asked them if they could be part of their band. And they were called Kui, Q-U-I. Not the greatest, but there was something kind of cool about what they were doing. And they played at the Alibi, and I saw them there.
Nice.
Got to meet David Yao.
Right on.
Got a hug from David Yao while he was singing. That was
Full on or bro?
No, it was like he went to everybody that was in the very front, and because the Alibi is a tiny little bar space.
Tiny.
So everybody that was in the front, he gave nice hugs to.
He's just giving up
He's a
the
weirdo.
love.
He's a weirdo.
I
Smoked a cigarette in the kitchen while he was performing and wrapped cellophane around his face and stuff.
saw a peek of that.
Yeah, so
Man.
this isn't totally overlooked, but a lot of times when you hear people discuss this band, they talk about their very first release, which was an EP, but later was packaged with their follow-up EP as a CD that they called 13 Songs. And then probably, at least in the earlier days, the album Repeater was kind of their high point.
And then I think that's like kind of the only thing people talk about. It's like those two records,
but
and then everything else after that is completely
There's a generation
forgotten
younger than us, though. There's kids that are, 5 to 10 years younger than us that got into the later Fugazi. We're talking about Fugazi, by the way. And the album that for a long time
record so much.
For a long time in kind of a not a sarcastic way, I'd like to refer to it as their secret greatest record.
Yeah.
The greatest album that people don't realize is their best record. Yeah,
I was trying to.
Steady Diet of Nothing.
I love this record.
It's the fourth release by Fugazi, the second full-length album. And it just takes from what they were doing with Repeater, and I just think has more songwriting maturity, a little bit more depth.
Yeah, from a band that was always never immature in their writing.
No, exactly.
Just the growth over the 5 or 6 records.
Yeah, more
amazing.
from the musical standpoint. What can we do as a band that is essentially a punk band?
Never wanted to stagnate, never wanted to be the same, never sold out to major labels, never sold merch, never.
So
one of the most amazing bands to ever play. I love them so much.
When I was thinking people talk about obviously the first album or the first release with Waiting Room, and then you got Repeater, and then there's people that love Red Medicine and the subsequent 90s albums.
Aftermath or something like that. What was that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm going to draw a blank on all of those releases. But
so good.
But this has kind of been in my heart, my kind of all-time favorite Fugazi. This one, hardcore fans of this band know it, of course, or at least a certain strain of the fans of this band will absolutely let you know that they know and love this record. But I picked this one because this band has had several iterations, and this one's kind of unique because it's in between two phases of the band. You can't really link it to the first phase, and you can't really attach it to the second phase, other than the fact that two specific musicians are on it. So it's the first album by King Crimson that features Bill Bruford and John Wetton.
I gotta admit, I own one King Crimson record, and you can probably guess which one it is.
In the Court of the Crimson King,
Yeah.
which, many people are going to say that's their all-time favorite Crimson, or that's the greatest.
Yeah.
That's their first, and it was when they were doing a kind of progressive rock that was of that late 60s era.
Bruford on drums. Man, give me
Yeah.
a break, dude. What a
So-
lineup.
In the era that people refer to as the John Wetton era of King Crimson, they were a three-piece. Robert Fripp, Bill Bruford, and John Wetton. John Wetton played bass, and when he left King Crimson, he went on to form Asia.
Yeah, another great band.
After doing some other stuff as well. But this features a violinist and a percussionist as well. So it's before they became the three-piece and released 3 albums as a three-piece. And it's also, in some ways, some of the heaviest, most insane avant rock stuff that they ever did.
Yeah, they're a trip. I
so
saw
if you don't know
a
Lars
version
Townsend
of
aspect.
them play with Dream Theater when I saw Dream Theater live. They're crazy, dude.
Heck yeah, any progressive metal band is going to be
Yeah.
fans of King Crimson
Yeah,
for sure.
like complete. But without them, like, what would you have? A whole lot of nothing.
I agree. I think what's
You've got so not that they're all like this weird, like, split off the branches. Like, yes,
Yeah.
there were members.
Oh yeah.
Asia, Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe.
Tons of them. Bands you wouldn't even
Alan
think.
Parsons didn't one of those guys
Probably.
go in Alan Parsons' project for a
Unfortunately,
while?
Unfortunately, I do not have that map photographically
Yeah, that
memorized.
is
But
the branches of that tree. Holy
King
hell!
Crimson released a box set on CD. I think the box set is called the Great Deceiver box, which is named after one of their songs. But you may not realize this, but what you're talking about is actually inside that box set. They have a album-sized piece of paper that is the tree, and it shows every single band that is somehow connected with King Crimson members. And there's probably 60. It's massive.
Right, like almost every like prog
So in
act
some
ever
way,
had
yeah.
some kind of.
I mean, it gets probably to a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of level, but in some way, there's
6
a
degrees
connection.
of Robert Fripp.
Indeed. Yeah. I think you might dig this one. This is a band that, God, probably most people only know them for one album, maybe 2, which would probably be their 3rd and 4th records. I love pretty much everything by this band, and
I'm
I think
intrigued.
this is one that just is probably not on most people's radar. So y'all know Stay Hungry.
Oh, dude, I was so gonna be
We
like,
all
are you talking
know-
about Twisted Sister?
You all know Come Out and Play.
Is
But
that You
Love
Can't
Is
Stop
for
Rock and Roll?
Suckers.
Oh my God,
Love Is for
this
Suckers.
this album is derided amongst fans.
I don't know why. Put it on. It's just kick-ass rock and roll. It's pop, kick-ass rock, which is what they were great at.
Man, I gotta admit, I've got 2 records. One is You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, and the other one's Stay Hungry. And I
Both
just
amazing.
never.
You can't go
Yeah.
wrong with either of those. But give this one a try. It's on the poppy side. It plays up a little bit more of that 50s rock kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's I think they lost a lot of people. This is crazy to me, and I'm just I've never really had this album in my hand, and now I'm looking at the back, and it says additional backing vocals: Steve Whiteman and Jimmy Chaffant from Kix,
Oh,
band I
okay.
love.
There you
Bo
go.
Hill, who was a producer, he produced some Rat stuff
Okay.
that I love,
Okay.
and Kip Winger. And then additional guitars, Red Beach.
I don't know that.
Red Beach played in Winger.
Okay.
He was
okay.
their guitar player.
Winger's a tough
amazing
pill for
guitar
some
player.
people to swallow, but the musicianship was there.
They were, yeah, I know.
Kip's vocal style, it was pushing
But
the edge of that.
They
that
played well,
cheesy, yeah.
and I think they get. I don't think they get enough credit. I mean, you don't have to give them any credit. Just give them a listen. They're decent. Like,
Yeah. Kicks was a good band, though.
Kicks is great.
I wish I had their stuff. Honestly,
a couple of their
I
records.
don't have any on vinyl. This next one's kind of in the same world, pretty much, and it's not that unheralded, but it's not the one that most Rat fans refer to.
I love this record. I almost put a Rat record on my list, and I was gonna put
you could go for the one after this.
Yes.
Reach for the Sky. Is that the one?
Nope, it was the one after that.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember what it's called now, but that's the one. I love this record.
And those might actually be more right for this list, but everybody knows Out of the Cellar.
Slip of the Lip.
Yeah, this
Body
had some
Talk.
big hits. This had several big video hits.
This is a good record. Every Rat record.
It's just everybody talks about Out of the Cellar and Lay It Down.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the two that most people know that are maybe not the most hardcore Rat fans. But I love this one almost just as much. Those ones maybe just have maybe 20% more kick-ass content.
Yeah, there were a couple tracks.
Looking for Love
on
dude.
Some of those.
Looking for Love's classic. Body Talk, Slip of the Lip. One Good Lover was great. Dance. Yep.
Eventually, when we get down to like Sunset Strip era favorite bands, what you're gonna notice is that I fall in love with bands that do something and then they have some kind of unique thing about them. And a lot of what it is how is the vocals coming through? Stephen Pearcy has a very unique vocal range.
He does.
And he makes it interesting to listen to on top of the bluesy hard rock that they were doing. Warren DeMartini on guitar was phenomenal.
Yeah. Not only a great vocal range, but just a unique quality to his voice. Now, I've talked about this before. There's a high likelihood that some of it's studio production, double layered vocals, but there's a quality to his voice that gives almost the impression of two octaves at once, not two octaves, but like two different vocal tones at once. That's something I've always loved about his voice. He had a great rock voice, man.
I read his book and I was disappointed. I think I wanted a little bit more out of it. I read this stuff and I don't. It's not that I don't want the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I know that's part of it, but sometimes they play a little bit too. And like, we get it, bro. Like, you got more ass than a toilet seat, but I want to hear the stuff behind, like how this album got made and how this was done, and none of that. It's just like I got in a car wreck and banged a nurse, and it's like, all right, great. I don't really care.
I actually enjoyed the movie The Dirt, but I could not read that book, dude.
I was the opposite. I loved the book and hated the.
I couldn't, at the way it was written. I couldn't get into it.
You haven't read Game of Thrones, have you?
No.
Yeah, don't. It's kind of written the same way.
Oh shoot! This next one. I don't know.
You pulled a me, like you went heavy in the honorable mentions today.
Great.
It's very hard to sit in your living room and talk music, and then something like sticks in your brain pan. You want to run off to look for them.
Yeah, that's a little bit different vibe. And you have the whole field.
I know, right? I know exactly where it is. Yeah. Like, I'll just be right back.
This one occurred to me just because I've heard people rag on this one more than maybe most other Rush albums. If you're going to diss on a Rush album,
don't ever diss on the Rush album. I have this going on with this wonderful slice of humanity that I've been spending my time with, and her and I
She likes the Rush.
No, she hates it,
Oh.
and it hurts my heart. 'Cause how do you hate the Rush?
Yeah, there used to be this stupid idea that women or girls didn't like Rush, but I think
She does.
I think that was kind of some fake news, or at least in modern times.
No, dude. Let me tell you
I think in
something.
modern times there's been an evolution to where
That whole meme you see of the men's bathroom line at a Rush concert is 100% true. There's like two girls in the line for the women's bathroom, and the line for the dude's bathroom is like around the block. This is a brilliant album.
it maybe doesn't have some of the big
Fucking
iconic
Bastille
songs
Day, baby.
besides Bastille Day, which I mean that alone is worth the price of
Necromancer.
admission. Necromancer and I can't think of the title. There's another. They're not
It's on the- yeah,
printed
it's on the
up.
back.
Yeah, Lakeside Park. Come on. But the feel of the whole album is wonderful to me. I don't know why it gets ragged on.
I'll end up sending this to her when we're done filming it. And
I think
can
maybe
give you
one-
a shout out. You're a rad human, but you need to listen to some Rush.
I think maybe one justification for it falling through the cracks a little bit is that it came right before
2112, right?
which was
Yeah,
the breakthrough.
yeah,
And so before this was Fly By Night, which was the first album featuring Dean
yeah,
Kirk.
right. You sandwich between these
Yeah.
two amazing, and
Yeah.
it's not that it's less than, but when you get sandwiched in between those two
And the
amazing
Friction
things,
feel might be a little different. Like 2112 maybe nails it a little bit more for what they're trying to go for, but it has its own unique feel, and I love it.
you
I just think
couldn't
it's
get
brilliant.
to those records after without
Yeah.
those first
Well,
couple.
and Rush is a band that you have to take their whole catalog
Yeah.
as a whole.
They
man, so.
definitely, you can see the progression and what they built, and then hey, now we're bored, let's bring in some keyboards and let's make things harder, and let's
Yeah.
put 17 time changes in a 7-minute song,
And
They're
even
amazing.
being influenced by bands that maybe didn't exist when they started.
like
Exactly.
loving it.
All right, this next one's a little bit outside of what we've been talking about, but this one kind of occurred to me because it's been in my craw a little bit when I hear people discuss this band. It is one of my all-time favorite bands. Probably the most recognizable band that falls under the sort of moniker of krautrock. If you've ever heard of krautrock.
Yeah, I can't attach any names to it.
It's kind of its own particular thing. It does get fairly expansive, but outside of kind of a core few bands, it's stuff that
Bro, if you pull out a
Alright.
Can record right now, I'm gonna flip the fuck out.
really.
I've been so into them lately.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
Is
Are
it?
you kidding?
No.
Man, I thought maybe the episode was over.
No.
I thought I was gonna get thrown out the front door.
No. Is it a Can record for
It-
real?
It might be.
I'm gonna
You
lose
gotta,
it.
you
I'm
gotta
gonna,
have some patience, man.
I'm gonna lose it.
So everybody talks about Tago Mago
It is.
and Edgy Bamiasi.
Yes.
Which are the two albums that feature their most known singer or the guy that was probably the most significant with them, which was Damo Suzuki. They had one album before Damo Suzuki joined the band with an American singer who was African American, and his name was Malcolm Mooney. And somehow he found himself in Germany and joined with these guys. So there's only one original release with Malcolm Mooney, but this got released in the early 90s, and it was the extra sessions from that first album, which was called Monster Movie. So this is hence titled Delay 1968. So delay being that it wasn't released until the early 90s, but it was material from that first Can session. And I love the Damo stuff. I even love stuff after Damo left. A lot of people will talk about soundtracks or Future Days, even Soon Over Babaluma. But
These guys are brilliant.
this is the one that's most in my heart.
These guys are
19th
brilliant.
Century Man is a funky blues jam that you got to hear.
Talk about a band that could not be put into a box. They're like, we're just going to be experimental. We're going to do whatever we want to do, however we want to do it. If we play a 5-second song, we're going to do it. If we want to play a 55-minute song, we're going to do it. They're great.
Yeah.
Super unheralded.
That's cool that you were digging on these guys,
I've been
man.
so into them lately.
So I just, in music forums, on Facebook and elsewhere, you see Can albums posted all the time, and it's always Toggle Malgo, it's always Edgy Bamyasi, and it might sometimes be Future Days, but never this one.
Yeah.
And I know it's not considered a legitimate original release, but it's got material that you need to hear if you love.
Yeah, you got to listen. You got to give those dudes a spin. They're amazing.
I'm kind of excited about this one, and I think you'll dig me on this one. And I paid a lot of money for this record.
Oh man!
Locally from a thrift store.
Stop it. Is it a
During the COVID shutdown, this store unfortunately had to go out of business, and they posted some stuff that they had in their shop, and they posted their little area of records, which was 99% garbage.
Yeah.
But this one I could see in the picture, and I messaged them and I asked them if they would be willing to hold it for me, which I don't know. I think I thought they said they would hold it, but they didn't. Nevertheless, I went there the next day. It was still there. It was on sale, but they had it priced at $50, and I was prepared to pay $50, but I think I got it for $30. It's a record I've been wanting on vinyl forever. Hard to come by on vinyl. It was honestly actually still sealed.
No way.
And to me, this is an example of a forgotten, overlooked, great record because nobody went that far, or they just thought this artist had kind of blown their wad. And I actually think the album following this one's amazing too. Billy Idol's fourth record, Charmed.
So for those of you that don't know, I'm a geek, and my geekitude only runs so far, and then sometimes I'll do that. I'll shut off. I'll turn it off. And the album, there's sometimes with the Steve Vai record, he did it. He just walks over to he's like, no, stop. You got to listen to this. Listen to this record. He did that with the Billy Idol record, the one after this.
Oh,
And he's like, you have to take this home and listen to it. I almost
Cyberpunk.
know the other one.
There's one before it.
With maybe it was this one. See, now I want to walk over there and look.
Yeah, see, I can't think of one between this and Cyberpunk.
It's the Whiplash Smile.
No, that's before this.
So that's the one I
Yeah.
was gonna, because that one's overlooked
Nice.
too. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
he does not.
obviously Rebel Yell's a hard
Yeah,
record
and
to
that's
follow,
all they
dude.
ever want to talk about.
Rebel Yell is a hard record to follow. And you're right, Whiplash Smile doesn't get as much credit either, but it does have
That's a
some
brilliant
songs that were
record.
big. Sweet 16 and
Yeah.
Don't Need a Gun. There were some big hits on there. This one, Cradle of Love, was a big hit. Had a video for it that
Good
if
jam.
you're our age,
Cradle of Love don't rock so easily.
yeah, and there was a cute female in the
Very,
video.
very.
It's kind of hard to ignore
Very.
at the time.
Very.
But anyway, this whole album is awesome. And to me, it's not just because I think it's awesome. It's because Billy Idol is a genius songwriter. And
His vocals are very good too.
I actually think Billy Idol is a high-level genius.
He just put out
Artist.
a record within the last decade that was really
Yeah,
good.
not
like
bad.
Kings and Queens of the Underground
Right,
or
yeah.
something like that.
I need to get that on record too and listen to it more.
I love the
don't know.
Billy.
Sometimes I get
And I love the
self-conscious.
fact that he, no matter what happens in the band, him and his muse are always together. Him and Steve Stevens.
Dude, there was some recent performance they did, just the two of them, kind of read a new vamp on one of their classic songs. I can't remember the song, but it was one of those, internet soundstage performance things. And it was just, it wasn't the greatest they ever did in the world, but their connection's so strong, and it was real sweet.
Our friend Heath.
Oh yeah, he opened.
Yeah.
It was.
He told me
yeah.
that story. He said he was so cool,
Yeah.
so humble, so
Yeah.
down to earth, so willing to hey, how can I help you? What can we do? Like just wanting to bring him up and be like, yeah, you know, like the next generations of vocalists just being good to those
we might
guys.
seem geeks to some young folks. I don't know, but please don't leave Billy Idol back in the 80s.
Nah,
his music is still fresh.
Yeah.
It still makes me feel
and
great.
you see that too, because people like Miley Cyrus have hitched her wagons to his horses because, you know, she knows what's up. He's dope.
Yeah. Dude was amazing.
His sister had a baby, and watching him on Instagram with that kid is adorable.
That's sweet.
Adorable.
I love Billy Idol. All right, this last one, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I actually think it's kind of, compared to some of the other ones, a little bit of a lesser note, but everybody knows Rumors. Everybody knows even tracks off the self-titled Fleetwood Mac record that preceded Rumors, and many other hits over the years. But of that era, Tusk, it's a little bit overlooked. You know, I think it's for the people who kind of dug a little deeper. It's a double album.
Think about Me's brilliant, Sarah, brilliant.
One of those albums that some people could make the argument it should have been a single record or something like that.
What Makes You Think You're the One? Awesome.
One thing that I think is kind of significant about this record today, he put it on today, and you sort of hear where all these 90s indie rock bands are coming from. It's like it was already done by Fleetwood Mac. It's got a dreamy quality. It's kind of a artsy pop album by Fleetwood Mac. And so if you haven't dug into Tusk,
I dig the, you know, we all know how I feel about the magic of the five, so we don't need to.
Yeah.
So we got the Metal Maniacs list, and I'm going to read it. I don't have any. It would be nice to have him here, then we could bounce questions off him, but we don't. So I'm just going to read it, and then we'll take it for what it is. So he's got Stained Class by Judas Priest, March of the Saint by Armored Saint.
All right.
No Parole for Rock and Roll from Alcatraz. I think Alcatraz's whole discography gets overlooked. Denim and Leather by Saxon, and Love Drive by the Scorpions.
Even if he was here, he wouldn't. He wouldn't be discussing his list. He never discussed his list. He would just put it.
Yeah, we would.
You would maybe discuss.
Yeah, we would. I could pull some things out of him. So this band, probably again in a way that maybe if you're not into metal or prog metal or all these things, you might not have gotten to the band at all. But they put out 4 stellar records. They put out their 5th record, and it goes monster. And for me, that record's good, but it's a little bit homogenized with what they did. And then the record that came out after it, I don't think a whole lot of people paid attention to. And it is Promised Land by Queensryche.
So you're talking about Operation Mindcrime.
Talking about the one after.
Oh, the one after Mindcrime.
Empire.
Oh, and
that record blew up. This one came after Empire, so that was going to be hard to.
Empire did blow up.
Gems on it that you know.
I forgot that Empire did blow up because Operation Mindcrime was so huge.
Yeah.
But Empire, I think, was harnessing the commercial stake that they had at that point. That there was
a little bit less on the proggy side, a little bit.
See, now, since I honestly didn't continue on with Queensryche
after Mindcrime,
I go for Rage for Order because I feel like Mindcrime overshadowed Rage for Order.
And
I actually think Rage for Order is a better record, personally.
That's my favorite Queensryche record for sure. Rage, and then Warning is my second favorite.
Yeah, Warning's great.
Love those records.
I don't even just love Rage for Order as the best Queensryche record. I think it's one of the raddest records in existence.
Oh, that record's brilliant start to finish. So Promised Land comes out in 94, like 4 years after Empire. So they took their time. They kind of, by the time the musical landscape's kind of changing, and it kind of just, I mean, it was all right. It was well received for the most part, but it you know, people kind of wanted that Empire Part 2. It's the last good record they put out with Jeff Tate.
Yeah.
And then the records after that with Jeff Tate are terrible. And then lucky for us all, they get Todd LaTorre. And the last, 3 or 4 Queensryche records have been amazing.
They have been. That's cool.
Yeah, they're so good.
I'm out of the loop on
Yeah,
that.
you got.
I trust you.
You should, because I know what I'm doing. So that's my number 5, Queensryche.
This is where we go
Promised
back and forth.
Yes.
I forgot that. That's part of our.
Give
format.
that a spin. It's got a solid. I mean, just for One More Time, which is one of my favorite Queensryche songs ever.
I need more time in my life so I can try to
Yes, you
absorb
do.
all this stuff. Because I like all kinds of other stuff too, but
Well, we talked.
I'm a
I
geek
went,
for this kind of stuff.
I went to the shop today to bring him some stuff, and I told him, like, I'm having a hard time. My entire list is metal, so I had to go back and,
Yeah.
and add some non-metal.
You know that I love such a broad range of music, and I hear different attitudes in my head a lot of times that I feel kind of like an outsider from. So sometimes I think like, oh, talking about Queensryche isn't hip enough to some
Yeah.
people, but I don't give a shit. I don't care. but
I think a large portion of our, as of yet, small audience is probably the same way, where
yeah.
like us and Jay, you can't really hone us into one type of. We kind of like
No,
something
of course
from
not.
everything.
Of course not. But also, I like to think if I could inspire somebody to get outside their box and give, something else a chance.
Dude, I told you we were going to be on the same
I
page.
honestly
with some
don't know
stuff.
how you feel about this band.
I love this band, and I almost put this on my list,
No
and then
shit.
I put Queensryche instead.
No shit. Sometimes we're in
Yeah,
synchronicity.
because the one before that's the one that gets all the love.
That one gets a lot of love, but actually before that one,
Doolittle.
yeah. So this band, you'll know who I'm talking about. That Doolittle is probably the one people talk about the most. They only put out 5 albums originally in their original time before they broke up for a couple decades, and then also Surfer Rosa.
Yeah, great
You know,
record.
And then you'll hear people even go a little further and say Bossa Nova is an amazing record.
Yeah, yes, record.
But to me,
Yeah,
the ultimate best thing that they ever did, and I'm not talking about, you have your personal favorites or the way the album first hit you, Doolittle is in my heart, Surfer Rose is in my heart. But those records were based on a much more simple formula. Not that the music itself affected you simply. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion in those records and a lot of brilliance in that simple formula. But on this one, they really, Trompe Le Monde, they really stepped beyond what they seemed not just capable of, but what they seemed kind of satisfied with, which was, verse, chorus, that kind of quiet, loud. And this is just beyond that. It's more progressive, more artsy.
I think they got
more variants from song to song.
He seems like the kind of dude that he probably watched them being the darlings of 120 Minutes on MTV. If you remember that show on MTV, which we loved, and was like, let's shake it up a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think so.
satisfied
I
with
think
just being that that band. I want to I want to expand it.
And then of course the band was falling apart at the same time.
Yeah.
And Kim Deal had already started doing the Breeders. So they went
Did
out.
she get into a little bit of a hang up with the White Horse?
Yeah, probably. I don't recall, but yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Her and her sister did.
So if you haven't listened to Trompe Le Monde as much, or you've kind of not considered it as good as Doolittle or Surfer Rosa, please go back to this one. But I would also like to urge you to take it on a road trip. To me, this is one of the greatest road trip records. You put it on front to back, it just adds to kind of your experience of an hour plus on the road, just kind of zoning on the drive.
Is
and then
their
the music just
most,
starts.
and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably a bigger Pixies fan than I am. even though I do love them a lot. That's probably their biggest artistic.
Yes, I would call it their grand opus.
Yeah,
I call it
they
their piece
really
de resistance.
went on a limb
I
and,
would call it their
and
most
challenged
epic record.
themselves.
Yes,
Yes.
it's their epic, and yeah, I don't listen to the Pixies as much anymore. I still check in with them every so often, but
I
this
do
is the
find
one that-
myself reaching for Doolittle a lot, just
Dude,
because it's so.
there's a mood to it.
It's
There's a
so
feeling
like
to it.
those 3-minute
Yeah.
alternative
Oh, yeah.
pop,
Oh yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. If nothing else, I
Here
gotta
Comes
hear
Your
Gouge Ray
Man,
every
and
once in a while.
yeah,
And Monkey's Gone to Heaven.
yes,
Yeah. Brilliant.
Wave of Mutilation.
It's a brilliant
Such a
record.
good
It's a
fucking
brilliant
record.
record, but this one gets slept on.
Yeah, because that is way more. That is them. I want to say that's them at their most purest, because it's them being experimental and saying we're
I think
gonna.
that's a good point. That's a good point. Sometimes we don't think of that as being the most pure. We think the more simple,
No,
raw
because you
stuff is,
forget
but-
about the fact that the labels are in the business of the music to make a profit. They don't give a damn about what
Yeah.
your artistic, what you want to do art wise. Just make records.
Yeah, we like that last
sell.
one. That
Yeah,
sold. Make that
do
one
that
again.
one. Do more
Yeah.
radio
Yeah.
stuff. We need to get on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So they said, "Fuck it, we're gonna make
let's
this crazy
make
epic
art,
record."
which
Yep.
is beautiful. Sometimes
yeah.
you get an Oreo cookie. You got your sandwiches. Well, what's the part in the middle? But sometimes you lose that part in the middle. Like maybe you get an Oreo thin, and that part in the middle is not. That's what
Maybe
happens.
you get the Lady Gaga Oreo that
Right?
the stuff in the middle doesn't even taste
Right,
like
and then
anything.
like it plays music, and then it slaps you with a meat suit, and so when the cookies are British Steel and
Oh.
Screaming for Vengeance,
Oh,
the album in the middle that gets lost, The Point of Entry
see,
by Judas Priest.
me and this dude, sometimes we, not in seriousness, but sometimes we feel like we might go to blows over something.
Yeah,
Or he's going to try to tell me.
lovingly, playfully, we
But I
banter.
almost pulled this one out too.
I love this record so much. Such a slept on record because it's in between two monsters.
Not just slept on, people have talked trash about it.
Yes, and
People
I'm
have
going
tried
to.
tell you
I'm
that
gonna.
that is a shitty
I'm gonna
Priest
go
record.
into it. Heading out to the highway, don't go. Hot rock and turn in circles. Desert plains, solar angels. All of those are bangers. The first 6 songs, all bangers.
And then as you say yes, I say no.
Yeah. Then all the way, troubleshooter, my little troubleshooter. Yeah, on the
Did I say
run.
the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 2 different album covers. You see, I've got the American album cover. So it came out in 1981. Like I said,
Yes.
it's
I don't
sandwiched,
have the other cover. I have the
sandwiched in between British Steel, which was massive, and then Screaming for Vengeance, which was massive. It moved slightly more radio friendly because they were getting pressure from the label to be more commercial. So
Yeah.
they said, okay, fine. And then it didn't perform the way, and even the band is like, I don't know why it wasn't more well regarded.
I'm only
It's got
glad that
bangers on it.
It does have bangers on it, dude. I'm only glad I didn't pick it so that we didn't
It
pick the
might
same
be.
record, but I almost did.
It might be the Priest record I grabbed the most. That and Unleashed in the East are probably the two
man.
Priest records I listen to the most. But like a Rush, once with Rush they put out something and it gets unbelievable praise, and then the label says, "Okay, do whatever you want. We're gonna leave you alone." But these guys,
Yeah.
it backfired, and then their label said, "Just do you, and we'll stay out of your hair." 81, in between the two cookies, listen to Point of Entry and listen to it the way it was meant to be consumed. Listen to it start to finish,
Yeah.
the whole thing as one solid piece. It's a really, really great record. It doesn't get enough.
I love it for all the reasons you said. I think to make it a little more personal, it was the first Judas Priest I ever got on vinyl. I had Screaming for Vengeance on cassette tape. I had Turbo. I had British Steel. From around that period. It took me longer to get into the earlier Judas Priest stuff, but that was the first one I ever found on vinyl. So I played it over and over again.
Love it.
So the first time I heard people trash talking it, I was like, "You're crazy.
Yeah,
It's a great Priest record. What are you talking about?
I don't. There are Priest records that we could talk about that aren't great, but that ain't one of them.
Man, where do I go next?
Where do you go next?
5. I got some heavy hit. Okay, man.
Oh, so he's trying to backload it and come heavy with the last 3.
I got some. Yeah, well, these are all heavyweights here. So this one, there's a lot of people that like this record, but for the most part, people always say that was where I stopped listening to them.
Dude, that's insane to me.
Out of their first run, because this is their 7th official record. You don't know who I'm talking about yet, but 7th might be a clue.
7th son of
All
a 7th son. This is, without a doubt, their most progressive album, and it is friggin' brilliant. With the lone exception of the song that got the video and got the most airplay.
I love that song.
I could do without that one, but every other track.
I actually
it's
need that
prog,
song, dude.
It's power metal. It's
You're talking about Can I Play with Madness?
Yes,
I love that
I'm
song.
kind of bored of that song, but
It
everything
is-
else on here,
It is
so good.
Can I Play with Madness is kind of the pop moment of the record.
You're not going to be able to see it. Produced by Martin Birch.
There you go.
Brilliant record. Brilliant record.
I hear so many people say maybe because of that, because that song sounded a little more radio commercial. It was kind of their poppy, one of their poppiest tunes.
Yeah, definitely.
Wasted Years was a fairly pop sounding tune.
That's
as
my
well.
favorite Maiden song ever.
It's just so nostalgic. It just has that
Love
feeling
that.
of.
I went to my Maiden collection and I was going to pull out No Prayer for the Dying from 91.
See, you're
90?
deep. You're deeper into
Love it. Love it.
I just have heard too many people say that's where I stopped with Maiden. Peace of Mind, Power Slave, and then maybe Somewhere in Time. But I draw the line at
Somewhere in Time is the best Maiden record.
I said the same
come
thing
at me.
about the Pixies' Trompe Le Monde. This is a magnum opus record. This is a record you didn't think that Maiden could do.
Nope.
And they did it brilliantly. Adding a little synthesizer here and there.
Yep.
Some changes that you never expected to hear them do.
Never thought they'd go prog. There's some
No,
absolutely prog power
It doesn't
moments
take
on that
anything
record.
away from the power.
Derek
in some
Riggs
ways-
with a great album cover.
Oh yeah. In some ways, it almost makes them heavier sounding to me.
Yeah, I love this record. I love it when it
freaking
came
love
out.
it.
I love it still today.
Yeah.
It's still one of my favorite Maiden records. It's definitely probably top 4 or 5 Maiden records for me.
And I
Maybe
would
even
say-
number 2.
Let's even just put it this way: at the very least, if you've been listening to, the first 2 Paul Di'Anno records or Peace of Mind and Power Slave, and you like this, but you just haven't played it as much, just do yourself a favor and dig into it, because it may all of a sudden become like, holy shit, this is the most exciting record by
I
Maiden.
love it that it starts and ends the same way.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's an opus. It's an epic.
goosebumps. I don't think this. I think that there's definitely a time in this band's history that I absolutely loved them, and there's times that I didn't much care for them, and now I just kind of am indifferent because they get so much love that it's like, you guys listening to the same thing I'm listening to? They were never an amazing band, and then there's one record. They have terrible records, but there's one record that isn't terrible that nobody wants to listen to because the singer was different.
So this is a little outlying pick you got here. Oh.
From 1994, the self-titled record from Motley Crue.
Man.
The best Motley Crue record they recorded. Go ahead and take a second. I know, because I love the first 2 records like it was nobody's business.
It's been fun, dude.
Yeah, take it. But, and I'm going to explain to you why here in a minute.
The only reason I fully respect where you're going right now is because it's so weird.
I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you why.
I got respect.
Let me get my notes. So it came out in '94, right? So they put out Dr. Feelgood. It's massive. I didn't really like that record. I liked Girls, Girls, Girls. And then Feelgood came out, and I kind of was like, nah, I'm not really into it. They have problems. It's books have been written about it. Nikki Sixx says on some kind of radio show that he liked this band that John Corabi was in. John Corabi calls his manager or whatever just to say thanks. Hey, man, thanks. Maybe we can do something together in the future with this band called Scream that he was in.
Right.
Nikki Sixx calls him back, says, hey, Vince is out of the band. Why don't you come and try out?
Yeah.
So they jam a little bit. They're like, you're in. At that point, they should have changed the name. They should have changed their name. Shouldn't have been Motley Crue. But what record labels want, they want to sell, and that name sells. So when you add, at that point, Vince Neil wasn't writing a lot, if at all. Nikki Sixx was doing a lion's share, and he wrote good.
Well, he always did
tunes, but
Nikki
Corabi could write, could sing, and could play guitar. So now Mick Mars doesn't have to lay down. Like Mick Mars can noodle and play. There's a musical maturity on this whole entire record. And people are like, oh, it's a grunge record. No, it's just heavy because Corabi brought that out of him. It went back more blues-based. It went more hard rock-based. It went away from the glam stuff that people loved so much. It was more dynamic. The lyrics were more mature. But fans only want Motley Crue.
Yeah, see, those are all good points. And I think you're right. I don't know if changing their name would have worked. It might have made it.
I don't think people would hate it so much if
it
was
also
called
wouldn't have
something different.
It also wouldn't have been heard as much. Probably wouldn't have been.
If you called it, oh, I don't know what rhymes with six. If you would have rhymed it like Six Warriors or some, whatever, like just play on the name that he was so popular that you could have played off his last name and people would have been like,
did later with 6 a.m.
Well, but it was trash.
Yeah.
What should have happened is they should have scrapped the whole reunion thing, got back with Corabi and made another record.
But I think
should have done.
I got respect for what you're talking about. The record never drew me in, to be honest, but that's probably mainly because I was so in love with old school Motley Crue.
Yeah, the first two records are great.
I was going to possibly throw in Theater of Pain because that's a record that I like. I think is pretty strong. It has a mood about it.
Very bluesy.
It's not their strongest material overall, but it's got a mood to it that I think is unique. And it gets trashed on.
It does because they changed their whole image.
But you know what got trashed on about this one is John Corabi himself by Motley Crue. They shit on him.
Yeah,
they dispensed with him as soon as they felt Vince Neil was viable again.
Well, what happened?
They didn't even
the label was going through. The head of the label, there was a war between these two factions that were vying. So they didn't get a push. They didn't get it just kind of got thrown out there. And so when it failed, then they panicked. And then, Vince Neil's solo career wasn't going anywhere really. So they were like, oh, let's put the magic back together.
There's nowhere for his solo career.
And then they came out with Generation Swing, which was trash. Everything they did after this record is horrible.
Well, I have to disagree, but that's probably for another show.
Okay, what after this record?
I really, really like New Tattoo with Randy Castillo on drums. I think there's some killer tunes on that record.
I don't even know if I've even listened to that record.
Well, see, then you don't know if you don't like it.
I heard that the
song
Saints of Los Angeles was
that came late,
horrible.
And the song New Tattoo is one of the weakest songs on the record. But
kind of like that Van Halen record.
Yeah, don't put the word tattoo in your song. It's
terrible.
Hokey.
Terrible.
Yeah, you don't need to talk about
it.
I give you respect for that, dude. Because I am a Motley Crue fan. And I think in some ways they were trying. They were trying to be artistic and make good music there.
I think they
fell
went
through the cracks.
I think they tied too much of what they were doing to their image. Right, so those first two records come out, they got that little devil image, but the records are a lot of fun. They're really good. They're kind of raw. Then they're like, well, let's shake it up. Then the whole image change just kind of, some things got lost in the cracks. Yeah. So their image on Theater of Pain doesn't match the music on Theater of Pain.
Yeah, kind of.
It was a little bit more bluesy, a little bit more like I dig that record. And then they're like, let's just stop this and just put on some jeans and a t-shirt. I'm dying out here with this fluffy pink.
Tommy Lee tried to.
How was Winger derided, but Motley Crue gets a pass, and they were like that whole. I don't know, man.
I don't know, bro.
It was tough.
This next one's a little bit of a fun one for me because I kind of been with this record since I first discovered this band, as I was realizing that I liked the sound of hardcore punk music, kind of coming out of my hair metal and early thrash period. So when I started hearing bands like Agent Orange, Bad Brains, Dead Kennedys, Circle Jerks, of course I heard Black Flag. But the tape that I got for myself, I think I got it Payless. Maybe I might have gotten it at the Works. I was hitting Payless first.
Yeah, in the old Dirt Mall, right?
Yeah. Started going to the Works when I was between 13 and 14, probably. So anything up to that point, I was getting at the department store music selections. Right.
There's a throwback.
Payless is a department store, but what do you call it?
Yeah,
like a Payless. It's
like a drugstore.
Yeah, drugstore. The drugstore. So
they had a rad tape collection though.
For a while,
tapes were dope. They had a whole.
I got my first Maidens. I got my first Metallicas. I got all kinds of killer shit. I got early hip hop tapes that Paylesses too. So anyway, there's kind of two layers to why I picked this. One, in the Henry Rollins era of Black Flag, everyone talks about My War. Of course, Damaged is probably the one the broadest audience knows about. But then this is also overshadowed by another record that is live. This is a live record. The one that everyone refers to is...
Who's got the 10.5?
Well, but the one people talk about is Black Flag Live 84.
Yeah, I don't have that one yet.
And
it's hard to find.
It just is not as good of a performance, not as good of a recording. There's a lot of energy, and there is there's a full concert release that you can watch of Live in 84. So it's a significant document. But this will always be my all-time favorite Black Flag record because for where they were at musically, and the level of musicianship that the band had ascended to at this point, which actually happens to be about the same time they're going to break up.
Look at Henry with the long hair.
It may not hit with the same impact. It doesn't sound as loud and noisy. It actually sounds a little more clean, but the stuff Greg Ginn does on guitar, the stuff that the drummer's doing, Henry's vocal performances,
Kira on bass,
and of course Kira.
Kira's got the 10.5,
and you actually really get to hear Kira on this recording. And Kira apparently did have the 10.5.
She did have the 10.5. If you listen to the record, you know.
And I know I know something that diminishes it in some people's eyes is it doesn't have Bill Stevenson on drums, who was part of that progressive Black Flag era with Slip It In and My War. And it has Anthony Martinez, who is basically a hired gun. But to be honest, he was a better, tighter drummer. And
well, Stevenson had other things to do.
He did. I mean, he obviously had started the Descendants.
Yeah, which is
and then probably
he's better in the Descendants than he is in Black Flag.
Yeah, except something that he had that earlier Black Flag drummers didn't have. So he was able to help them develop these more kind of confusing, weird, elaborate kind of songs within 3.5 minutes. But this guy Anthony Martinez, his drumming on this is awesome. And anyway, it's just one that a lot of times when it gets brought up, people go, yeah, that was like the end of Black Flag, or I don't like Rollins, and that was a live record that's not even as significant as Live 84 or whatever. To me, this record rules. Every time I put it on, it blows my mind.
I remember that. I remember that record getting passed around a lot when I was in high school, and that's how
cool.
That's how I onto it. So for me, I've always loved it.
See?
And I think I want to say when I started really hunting down stuff to fill out my collection, it was probably the first Black Flag record I really bought. Like I really searched for because I wanted to have it again.
The song selection too. Every song that they picked, or just it left out. You didn't have to hear like I don't know what. I'm drawing a blank now. Some of the earlier kind of songs that I think are kind of hokey now, like stuff off of Damage, a TV Party, Drink the Black Coffee, stuff like that. Like they left stuff like that out of it. It's all kind of their most weird artsy stuff. I don't know. Anyway, getting down to
it's
two left.
Number two. It's number two. And I picked this record because it's my favorite. I don't love everything this band has done, but I definitely did like them a lot for a certain amount of time. This was their first record that I had gotten. I remember that I had Tooth and Nail by Dokken, and I think I can't even remember what grade I was in, 7th grade, 6th grade, somewhere in there. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And maybe a little after, maybe 8th grade. And we went to like Benbow or something for like, it was towards the end of school, and Jerry Bates wanted to listen to Tooth and Nail, and I was like, all right, what you got? And he handed me 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit by the Jovi, which is the temperature of which rock melts.
Is it?
Yes.
78 degrees?
7,800 degrees Fahrenheit.
I forgot the 100 part. That's a big difference. Yeah.
This record isn't even liked by the band. Bon Jovi doesn't like it, doesn't like the way it sounds, didn't like their producer. This is their best record. This is my favorite record. Everything like
second.
In and Out is their second record. In and Out of Love, Price of Love, Only Lonely, King of the Mountain, Silent Night, Tokyo Road, Hardest Part is the Night, Always Run to You, To the Fire. Every one of those are great. The only one I don't really know is the last one. I can't think of it all. Like every friggin' song on this record is great.
To be honest, I have listened to that record a long time ago when I was younger. It's been a long time. I did like it, but nothing really comes to my mind.
I think it's their most musically diverse record where they're not trying to be.
It doesn't have their first hit on it though, right?
No, that was on their first record was Runaway.
Runaway, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so they had a hit.
In and Out of Love.
Yeah.
That one where they're on the boardwalk.
So they had a hit, but then they didn't really break through until the one we all know and love.
So it came out in 85. And it came out about a year, maybe a little bit longer before their breakout, Slippery When Wet, which went, huge.
Yeah. For good reason.
Yeah. A lot of fans liked it, but the band doesn't. They don't like the sound. They don't like Shin. They don't like the dude that was producing it was a guitar player. And then he produced some like Talking Head stuff. But for me, it hits on all cylinders. It has a wide range of different kinds of songs in that, mid 80s, still that Sunset kind of more glammy, poppy metal, but it's really good.
Yeah, they had a sense of that pop metal. They had long, shaggy hair and stuff, eased up a little bit and everything, but they were also from Jersey. So they were also working class rock and rollers.
And you can say what you want about John Bon Jovi, but that dude can write a song.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
and I think it's the one that slips between the cracks because people will go for their first record or they'll skip the first two records and start at Slippery.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think I lost. I think it was Slippery, and then there was like one after that. But by the time New Jersey hit, I lost interest.
Yeah, I totally did too. The one after Slippery When Wet had some hit on it.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but I have that one. But
that was
after
around
that,
the time
yeah,
that,
after that, I was like, yeah, no.
That was around the time they did a track for the Young Guns.
Yeah, that was him solo.
Oh, that was him solo.
Young Guns 2.
Richie Sambora wasn't part of
Nope.
that shit. Oh,
It was his solo.
He got dogged out on
It
that.
was a solo. No, because then he went and did.
John was taking home the whole.
Yeah, because
paycheck.
he went off and did his solo
Heather
record.
Locklear,
No, he was married to Heather Locklear, wasn't he? That didn't end well.
no, how could it?
Those guys never.
They never learned.
Just stop trying to get married, bro.
They never
That's a
learned.
fool's gambit.
Man, these last two are. You got anything more to say about Bon Jovi?
No.
Any
Well, I mean,
more?
when you pull that thing out of Bon Jovi talk stops when that record gets
You
fucking
got, any
pulled
more,
out.
you got
No.
any more heartfelt, sensitive insights about?
You're going to love
Jovi?
my number one. I know that. You're going to be like, God damn it. Yeah, so, yeah.
I believe you.
No, I know. Like you're trying to look over there. Like, I just left my list out right here because
Yeah,
there ain't a whole lot of room
I
here.
can't read that shit.
Thank God.
So we already talked about this band, and I
Yeah.
kind of
You
last
dropped
night when I was
low.
thinking about it, I thought maybe I would just talk about these two records together, but then the number of honorable mentions when I took out my top 5 added up to 10. And that, I didn't even plan it that way. I just pulled out until I kind of took a pause
Yeah.
and was thinking, and then I counted the amount of records I had, and it was a perfect 10 and 5. So I just left it at that. And for different reasons than why we both kind of agreed that Caress of Steel by Rush was an overlooked gem. This one, because it doesn't feature the bandmate who would ultimately help and take them to where they became as a band,
The Professor.
the Professor. But nevertheless, in its own right, is a kick-ass record. And I get it when people kind of maybe leave it out of the canonical list of Rush albums, but their debut, self-titled, with Rutsby on drums. What's his?
John Rutsey. Thanks, thanks, Larry Joe. What are you doing, bro? Like, come on, dude.
Well, so when this band comes on the scene somewhere in the northern Midwest,
No, exactly where you're going.
they
with
got
that.
traction on the radio
Yeah.
at one
In Ohio.
station. Ohio, okay. And when the first song, which they got played, which is Working Man, everyone started calling in going, this is the new Led Zeppelin? What the heck?
Play that new Zeppelin song.
Now, if you really, I could see hearing it for the first time on the radio, you might ultimately,
Until he starts singing.
later on, you're not
Yeah.
going to be thinking that that's Robert Plant singing, but, and it doesn't even sound like they were aping Led Zeppelin or trying to cop that,
Yeah.
but it's who wasn't influenced by the sound and the tone of Jimmy Page in those days. So you can kind of leave it out and say that Rush starts with Neil Peart entering, and this is just kind of like sort of this oddball where they started, but it is a Rush record. It's their first record. Two best friends and the drummer that they met and picked up and got going with this record. It launched them. I mean, if this didn't do well enough, who knows what would have happened?
No.
And maybe even if John Rutsey himself hadn't said, I don't think I can hang in with you guys, they might have continued with him longer.
He had some issues.
But as a hard, heavy, kick-ass rock record, it rules, and it
is,
just seemed,
it is heavy too, and it's
it's also it's a
you see the glimpses of the complexity that would come when
yeah
they found someone that could write lyrics to match the musicianship that was coming. Not that Rutsy wasn't a comp.
His drumming's great on this record.
Yeah, he's really good, but he had some health and medical things going on, and you can't.
I don't think
You can't
Alex.
match.
I don't think Alex and Geddy ever looked prettier.
No, they didn't. I don't know. Maybe on the back of with the kimonos.
Maybe with the kimonos on 2112.
But Finding My Way.
Finding My Way, dude. That's a way to kick off a rock record, and then it ends with Working Man, a 7-minute jammer.
Like already writing 7-minute songs. Like
In the Mood is a sweet tune.
That's a good.
So
that's a good pick.
I don't know. What do you think? That seemed appropriate for my top 5 overlooked records. I think it's fair to say that's a somewhat overlooked record.
Yeah, because I think when you talk in the pantheon of Rush, what gets brought up? 2112 gets brought up. Moving Pictures gets brought up.
Even
Power Windows,
Signals,
Hemispheres.
those,
They have a couple records that get lost in the crossfire. Presto gets kind of forgotten.
Yeah,
Roll the Bones gets kind of forgotten. So
Roll the Bones. We'll talk about that another time. Probably had one of our earlier episodes probably talked about it.
Yeah, a little bit.
That is a good record.
It is.
It hit at a time where it didn't make sense to a lot of people or something. I don't know. It's a good record. And the song Roll the Bones has that kind of weird rap part in it.
He tried to get someone to do it, and then he just did it. They could have got rid of that. Let's call it what it is.
I can't help still loving that tune, though.
No, it's great. That's a great.
The lyrics and the chorus of that tune are epic. All right,
We've got to kind of obviously his number one is going to be fucking Ross the Boss or Good Manowar or some shit. But we've got a record that.
Man, I wish I would have done that just to fucking.
We got kind of this inside kind of thing between the two of us that one of my very favorite. We're gonna do an AC/DC episode, and I'm gonna I can't wait to do an all AC/DC episode. I can't wait to do an all Black Sabbath episode because I'm gonna blow people away with some of my favorites. That people are gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" One of my absolute favorite AC/DC records is one that is very overlooked. Flick of the Switch.
Yep.
Such a great record, and it seems like it just gets lost in the Rising Power, Houses on Fire, Flick of the Switch, Landslide. I mean, it's
I don't want to step on what you say, but my first initial feeling as to why that record is overshadowed is because of the massive impact of Back in Black.
Yeah,
that was such a huge record.
So this is 83, their third record with Johnson. If you line up those Brian Johnson records, he starts with Back in Black, then goes For Those About to Rock, which is
a great follow-up to Back in Black.
I think it's better than Back in Black.
It may be, yeah.
And then that's why it gets lost. Yeah. It gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
it's
so
like
really
a disappointment after those two records.
Really those two records.
And they said it was a little bit of that move towards commerciality with AC/DC, but for me it's like they were the most kind of easily packageable hard rock band that was out there at the time. I mean, they got a little controversy for the Highway to Hell record because you couldn't say that.
Aerosmith might have been a little bit more commercial, but not as consistent.
Remember that thing we were talking about bands that people love that you hate? Yeah, they're going to be on that list for me. I really just dislike them. So, that's my...
I'm with you, dude.
I
don't know it as well as you do, though.
If you
certainly don't have it in my collection.
Listen to that. It's start to front. There are no frills. They are not going to come out, and they're not trying to wow you with what they can do on their instruments. They're just bludgeoning you with awesomeness. and it's great start to finish. And
I
you
remember-
have so much fun with this record that you're going to be like, it'll spin through, and you'll be like, yep, let's go again.
Sometimes you hit a block where if you didn't absorb a record sort of on the right trajectory,
Yes.
you're getting into a band, you're listening to all this stuff, you didn't absorb 2 or 3 that kind of were down the line a ways. And then for years you're going along just listening to these ones. You think you kicked with a record because you don't know the songs yet. And sometimes it may take actually having to tell yourself, I gotta really listen to this record. And it might be harder, it might take longer for all the material to really become like as iconic as everything else
Yeah.
you know. But if you can get there, like this guy does, because he listens to the whole discography of bands, he does, you know. I know you say you stop at certain points with certain bands,
with
but
certain things, but
you're pretty methodical about
Yeah.
deciding what
I
you
like to.
you know, discerning what you like from a band and stuff. And so you'll
And it
take a
was,
chance on stuff, whereas I might have just
AC/DC was a big band in the whole framework of Jason and I. They were big too because his uncles were total metalheads and they loved AC/DC, so it was always on. So you just got that, you just heard it so much that it was just
Yeah.
like, Rising Power is one of my favorite friggin'
I do remember seeing the Flick of the Switch video when I was
Yeah.
younger, and for some reason what's burned into my mind is Malcolm in his white t-shirt in that video, because I think they're just in a room playing the song, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think so.
I could be
With
off
that
on
big
it, but
switch.
yeah, I
I
just
think
remember
it's one of
seeing
the
the band playing,
last-
and he's just in his Malcolm stance there with his white.
I've got my AC/DC book over there from Martin Popoff, but so I can't remember every single record what they come out. But the Flick of the Switch might be one of the last records. There may have been a couple. Maybe it was Razor's Edge. Definitely was the last record where it's not a ton of one track and a ton of filler. Everything that
Right.
came after that, up until their very newest one, which is really, really good, Power Up. You should go
Yep.
give that a
I
spin.
still don't know.
There was one or two songs, and then everything else was just like it all sounded the same. It was all filler. But with this record, it's start to finish like
nice.
really nice hard rock. You're gonna have a great time with it. You're gonna put it on. It's gonna be great.
I think you should trust this guy.
You should, Joseph.
All right.
So bring out.
Man, we haven't done this in over a year. This felt good.
Yeah, it was
to get
real
back to
good,
this.
real nice. Loving it.
And almost more natural feeling for me in this situation here.
You feel like we're not up against a time crunch, so you don't feel rushed. There's not people at the door. The phone's not ringing.
Yeah.
Although I did get a couple of texts. Sorry
Oh,
if I ignored your texts. You'll know why when this gets uploaded.
So I don't need to tell this anything about this. And Greg goes even deeper into this band than I do. But let's just say the original canon with the original frontman, which was a total of 8 records. And you will hear people say, and this is the reason I picked this, you will hear people say the first 6, perfection.
Is
the
it-
first 6.
Are we going to talk? Is it Sabbath?
But see,
Did you just bring out Never Say Die?
maybe.
Oh, you fucking
So-
Sabbath.
So everybody says the first 6. And I say, well, out of the first 8, there's actually 7 kick-ass records. But they had to
because
skip.
Technical Ecstasy is the outlier.
I really wish, just for the sake of it being easier to say, I wish Technical Ecstasy had been the 8th record instead of the 7th.
Yes,
Because you always
it
have to
almost
say-
feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's weird.
Like if they would have ended on Technical Ecstasy and then broke up, you'd understand.
Right. Now, it's hard with the first 6 Sabbath records to put something next to that and say it's just as badass. But Never Say Die, the 8th and final of the original Ozzy records with Sabbath, is much better than you think. And if you are having that conversation where people say, Just stop at Sabotage. You
Don't
need to go to that. They're
Don't
totally
don't
wrong.
listen to that.
The production of this record, the material, the feeling, it rocks. Just like all of their other great records, there's emotional tunes in there. There's heavy rock tunes. There's wistful stuff. There's shit that's just super banger tunes.
I am
Obviously-
not that I don't have the last two in the 8. I need to get them, but without breaking this open, I can almost guarantee that Iommi probably wrote thing on this record.
Yeah,
And you see the glimpses of
although Geezer was the principal lyric
writer. What we've, and again, I'm going to blow people away when I start talking about what my favorite Sabbath records are, because a lot of people, their first one they go to is Paranoid.
Yeah,
I don't even really
Reality.
like that record. Master Reality and Volume 4 are god tier, untouchable.
No, Paranoid, I would almost say, is the weakest of all of those.
It's the one I like the least.
But it does have some great tracks.
Yeah,
Ferris Were Boots.
Paranoid. Yes, but Paranoid and Iron Man, I never have to hear again.
I know, and
ever.
they're not bad. They're just sort of the least interesting
And
Black
the
Sabbath
most
tunes. They're super
War
overplayed.
Pigs get played a lot, but at least that
yeah.
one's like intricate and like you're like,
Yeah.
oh. But with those two,
Yeah.
it's just like, Iron
Yeah.
Man, come on, bro, I'm so over it.
It's I love it, but it's not as interesting.
That's a good choice.
The riffs
man.
and hooks on that.
That's a good pick.
Never Say Die is a killer intro track. I think if you put this on and blast Never Say Die, you'll be fairly hooked. But then A Hard Road, the second song on the record, it is worth the price of admission. That is a amazing tune. And then Johnny Blade, Shockwave's good. They're all good. I'm not as intimate with every song on here as the other earlier albums because I've listened to those a bazillion times. But every time I put this on, front to back, it feels good, and I think it should be included in the original great canon of Sabbath records. And so when people tell you to stop at 6, don't listen to them.
There is snobitude that comes with this Sabbath love that I don't understand. Like, if you want to section it off into parts, then go for it. That doesn't hurt my feelings. But if you say, like, I don't want to listen to the Dio era, that's a mistake. Those are 3 great records.
That's just
I don't want to listen to the Tony Martin stuff. You're missing some really great, stony, doomy, amazing music. At least Headless Cross and Seventh Star, brilliant records. Love those records.
Who was singing on those?
Tony Martin.
Oh, Tony Martin. Okay, but then they had some other real noteworthy vocalists.
There was that middle one that had the dude from Purple.
Saying,
I don't think he was. They did a solo project
Gillan,
together.
yeah,
Gillan did one, and then Hughes did one.
Oh, okay.
And then the Hughes Iommi fused record is amazing.
Okay.
But that was a solo. That was an Iommi solo record.
And then the return of Dio.
The return with Dehumanizer, brilliant record. So to stop like their whole.
But sometimes it's hard. I'm not dissing anybody out there. Sometimes it's hard for any of us to connect those things together when a band has evolved, changed, gotten different members of the band.
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel let down. It can be a natural feeling to go, now that so-and-so's not in the band, it's dropped off, or they hit a point where the material didn't seem as good or whatever. Clearly the Dio thing is a whole other animal.
Yeah.
It's still definitely Black Sabbath. It's Black Sabbath with Dio, but it's another animal altogether. And I hear sometimes people saying that they don't even like the Ozzy stuff as much as the Dio stuff.
Yeah, if they got into the band after Ozzy had already left.
That might be the case.
Eddie Trunk is like that. He didn't listen to him until
and
Dio
if you're trying to
through.
compare them as just pure vocalists, Dio's a better singer. but
Ozzy was a perfect fit for what they wanted to do.
And has his own unique.
But again, Tony
quality.
Martin was on 5 records and gets totally
Wow.
overlooked. Like,
Yeah,
do the work. Like,
Yeah.
put in the time. It's worth it. It's
dude, I hadn't really heard Dehumanizer much until like 5 or 6 years ago, and put it on at work one day and was like,
yeah,
shit, dude.
that is such a great record.
It's heavy. It's heavy as hell.
So we're going to do 5 things from my collection that you should be listening to, and you could probably go get from this guy. My first one is attached to a shout out to my friend, The Hall of Horror, HAUL, on Instagram. It's the only social media that I have. I got rid of everything else, but he is a huge Carcass fan, as am I. This is the Despicable. This is an amazing record.
Brand new.
It's their newish one.
Okay.
It came out last year. It's
I love
brilliant. Pick this up. It's great.
One of the most incredible extreme metal
They're
bands,
They're
musicality
amazing.
wise.
Go give the Hall of Horror a follow on all social media platforms. We share the same first name. We were both vets. He's an amazing guy. Loves horror, loves metal. He's trying to start his own label. He does the eBay thing. He's doing a ton of stuff. Go support that guy. He's super rad. 30 years.
35.
The last record they put out was in the early 90s, and it was garbage. And then all of a sudden they reform a couple years ago, and then they put out this amazing piece of art, Forever Black by Cirith Ungol, or Kirith Ungol, or however you want to put it. It is amazing. This is a great record start to finish. They're coming out with a new EP at the end of the month, which I'm going to grab. Still has the Elric art from the original Elric books. Super awesome. Super early, proto Doom power.
Yeah.
Super awesome.
They are fairly significant in the history of Doom. That could be a whole other topic.
Oh, it's amazing. If you like that
they're
kind
a weird
of
little
stuff,
piece of it, but they
Yeah.
are important to it.
they are. It's not your standard drop Doom, riff laden. They do a lot of they mash a lot of stuff in, and it's great. Another band that had a hiatus for a while and came back, Evil, however you want to pronounce it. This record is an onslaught of your senses. It is nonstop, not one wasted note. Amazing thrash. It is. There are bands that are just trying to break into the scene that can't make a record this good. Give it a listen. It is
Not
amazing.
familiar with it. What label is it on?
It is Napalm Records.
Okay.
It's amazing stuff. We talked about Riley, Heartbroken. This band was on its way. This record is. I didn't listen to it for a while after he died, and I put it on again recently, and it is so riffy, so amazing.
What would you
He's
call
awesome.
it? Like brutal thrash?
Yeah, like
Extreme
even
thrash?
like an extreme thrash.
Yeah.
Not so much as the vocals where you'd think it was going to be more of like a death metal vocal, but it's awesome.
See,
Like,
the good metal bands coming out today, they may sort of seemingly decide we'll go the thrash track or black metal track or whatever. I think in that realm of kind of thrash and death metal, there's these new artists that they've absorbed everything, and they can write riffs and structures that are basically playing off of everything that they've heard and absorbed, but it never sounds like they're copying.
yeah,
It's not like a retro rock and roll band trying to sound like a 70s or 60s rock and roll band. It's not like recycling and rehashing. It's just that's the style. That's the kind of stuff you want to hear. And they're doing it beautifully.
there's something
It's
so
brilliant.
amazing about the song Executioner's Tax, like Swing of the Axe, where they've got this one underlying, like almost chugging guitar and then the other one riffs around it. So
Wow.
it like interplays. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Giving those a break.
What is this?
Last but not least, the Brazilian thrash ladies of Nervosa. I got real depressed because they broke up. So the bass player
I
who
saw a
also
video.
sings, the bass player who also sings and the drummer left. But lucky enough, the guitar player got a bunch of new players. They're putting out a new record. The bass player and the drummer started a band called Crypta, which is amazing. So we got two great bands out of a disillusion, a
Okay.
dissolving of. But go pick them up. They've got 4 records. They're all great.
So this band dissolved, but formed it off into 2.
Yeah. So this iteration of the band dissolved. The guitar player stayed, kept the name, got 3 more people,
So
reformed
this
it.
band carries on.
Yeah,
and then
just
do
in a
offshoot
different.
band.
And then and I like the vocalist that left a little bit better than the one they got. She's got this kind of growly, but also this like shrieky
I
scream.
saw a
So good. Yeah, I
music
think I
video
sent
of
it to you.
theirs. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for death.
It was really good.
Super good. Super good. All right, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We are so stoked to be back. Hopefully we can do this at least once a week. And please like it, subscribe, send it to all your friends. Let's get our numbers up there. Let's keep doing this thing. We love it too much to let it go. Final
Yeah.
words?
Just keep buying physical media, but if that's not a constant option, just
Make
keep
it one.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, just keep deeper diving. Just keep checking out more stuff. We're gonna hit all kinds of topics and discuss all kinds of different music.
Fuck Amazon. Long live independent record stores. Long live physical media. Metal up your ass. We love you.